In hostile territory with their lives on the line, can the Oilers drag this series back to Edmonton? We get you set for Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final between the Oilers and Panthers on the GCL Diesel Oil Street pregame show. What's up, everybody? Live on location at Hudsons, Bourbon St. Tom Gazzola, Steve Whyno from the Associated Press, who stayed behind, didn't go to Florida.
Waiting a possible Game 6.
Waiting possible Game 6 with you for the show. Matty Kassian will be joining us a little bit later on with Game Changers. And, of course, Zach Tecum is in for YouTube. Trev today holding things down back at ESTHQ. As always, text us 780-218-9999 if you're listening in on TuneIn, if you're listening on iHeartRadio, Apple Music, or, of course, the EdmontonSportsTalk.com audio player. We appreciate you. And then if you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button and get into the nasty chat. What's up, nasties? Hope you're all doing great. All right, GCL Diesel, Edmonton's diesel fuel system specialists and providers of critical engine components for over 50 years, presenting sponsor of the Oil Stream pre- and post-game show. All right, Steve, I don't know if a lot of us thought we would be here for Game 5, but here we are, literally on location back at Hudsons, which is fantastic. What have you made of this series to this point? Give us the sum up of how you'd look at it.
Just like the Oilers guys were saying after Game 3 of this series, where they didn't feel like they deserved to be down 3-0 because of how well they played in Games 1 and 3. But hockey's a random sport sometimes, right? Like sometimes you get goal lead, which they did by Sergei Bobrovsky in Game 1. Sometimes a team is opportunistic, like the Panthers were in Game 3. But it's been a weird series, and this happened last year with kind of Florida and Vegas, and a banged up team against a healthy team, a team with experience on long playoff rounds, and a team not experienced. And I think you're starting to see that on the or you've seen that in the series on the margins of kind of what Florida's experience has meant and what Sergei Bobrovsky has meant until Game 4 when the Oilers lit him up.
It was a fun time. I know we enjoyed the spoils of victory around the city because it was a party atmosphere on a nice Saturday.
Right? Yeah.
No, we made it work a little bit, but what have you made of Edmonton in the postseason? Because you've been traveling all over this entire playoffs, and you've had a sample of everywhere basically since. Where did you start this series?
It was Washington,
yeah.
Washington and New York in that series. You could tell how much people care about hockey. Like even a place last night where missing Stanley Cup banner, like posters on the wall and things. You know how much people in this town care about this sport and care about this team. Not saying people in Florida don't, but it's life here, right? As an American who grew up loving hockey, I grew up outside of Philadelphia, where people do care, but it's not their daily lives. It's not something that for us it was the Eagles. It's the Eagles, the daily lives sort of thing. But that's what it's been like. The fact that this team has made a Stanley Cup Final run the first time since 2006. I was here for the bubble in 2020, but the Oilers weren't in the final. There were no fans. It was a very strange time.
Yes, it was.
You're seeing an entire generation of new fans who haven't experienced this before.
Yep. And they're living it up. It's a little bit different. It's actually a lot different than it was back in 2006. 2006 was crazy. White Avenue was the place to be. It was just hordes of people. And, I remember watching in Cancun on ESPN Deportes, the bartender Manuel's like, "Hey, you guys, isn't that your city?" And they're lifting people in shopping carts, shooting off fireworks. And it was absolutely wild. There's a Florida Panthers fan here. He's got a Florida Panthers jersey.
That's gutsy.
There's Jay and Andrea just arriving. Rip City Step already here. What's up, guys? Good to see you. Thanks for coming by.
I have more Cancun questions for you. That's later.
There's a lot of stories that are not fit for air. That's for sure. Okay, so you're giving your perspective on the series and how people are around here, how they treat hockey, and you cover the Caps every day, basically. That's your beat. What did you want to get to? I know you want to say something.
No.
I was going to be like, give us the outsider's perspective of this Oilers team right now, because, we're with them every day in the rink and all of that. What are you seeing from this group?
Well, watching through the first 3 rounds, this was a team that has responded to adversity really well. And look, you know the high-end talent. You know what Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl have been able to do. What has surprised me in this series is just the fall-off from guys like Evan Bouchard. We haven't seen the Draisaitl from the first 3 rounds in this series. True. And Stuart Skinner's been good. I mean, he had the turnover in Game 3 that was brutal and maybe a little bit of a rough game. But we came into the series thinking Stuart Skinner was the biggest question mark, right? Yeah. The fact that Sergei Bobrovsky is a 2-time Vezina Trophy winner and has this long resume. And Stuart Skinner is a 25-year-old kid from down the street here in a Cup Final for the first time. And he's showing up on the big stage. There's the reason they're down 3-1 in the series is not him. It's certainly Bobrovsky and a lot of things the Panthers and Aleksander Barkov are doing well, but it's not because of any fault of Stuart Skinner so far in the series.
No, fair point. And he's risen to the occasion. You're right. The one flub in Game 3, and people were mad, Steve, that he wasn't more upset in his post-game interview.
But what do you do? Obviously, he's upset.
Well, that goes back to what you were saying about like the passion, and people are like, what's with this guy? Because he was thankful for the lesson he learned, and that's his positivity and his mantra and mindset, basically.
And look, long term, if the Oilers lose this series and are back in this spot a year from now, 2 years from now, we are going to look back at situations like Game 3 and how the Oilers handled that and how they handled kind of coming off an 8-1 win as lessons. But it's hard to you lose the forest for the trees, right? Everyone's in this right now. You want your team to win a series, but yes, you long term. I'm sure Florida fans were upset when they lost that series in 5 games last year.
Sure.
Now they're back, and the Panthers are 1 win away from the Stanley Cup. If you can step back a little bit, I think he's actually right.
Steve Whyno joining us from the Associated Press, live on location, Hudsons, Bourbon Street at West Edmonton Mall. Tom Gazzola and Zach to come with you as we get you set for game number 5 of the Stanley Cup Final. Let's go into the starting lineups for tonight. I will also throw out the question of the night. Text us 780-218-9999. If Edmonton wins tonight, is this series going 7 games? You want to take a crack at that one, Steve, real quick?
If they win tonight, you know what? I'm gonna weasel out of this by saying it depends how they win tonight. If the Oilers have figured out something with Sergei Bobrovsky, if that wasn't a one-off with chasing him in Game 4, yes, I think the series is going 7. If it's a squeaker, if it's something where it's a 1-goal game, if it's overtime, those sort of things, it's still hard to beat a team 4 times in a row in a playoff series, and it still would be an uphill climb. But if they've solved something, if they figured out how to crack Barkov and how he's defended McDavid on home ice, and they figured out something either with shooting high or whatever it is on Sergei Bobrovsky or the rush attack or something that Kris Knoblauch has isolated, then yes, I do think this will go to 7.
All right, that is the question of the night. If Edmonton wins tonight, is this series going 7 games? Text us 780-218-9999. And if you're watching on YouTube, get into the nasty chat. We've had a lot of Canucks fans coming in. Still.
Canucks fans?
Canucks fans.
Do they know their team's not playing?
No. Oh. Actually, yes.
I mean, not for the last 2 rounds, right?
Well, I know it's been like a month, but especially on postgame, we've had a lot of Canucks fans getting into the nasty chat and stirring it up with our viewers and listeners, which has been kind of funny. So it's been an ongoing thing.
So we're saying Vancouver fans are not fans of Canada.
I'm not saying anything. I think I appreciate them watching. I appreciate them listening. I appreciate them engaging.
That.
Yeah. But
and any Capitals fans who are watching now too.
Right, exactly. Okay, let's go to the starting lineups before we continue on. Let's go to the Oilers side of things. McDavid between Foegele and Hyman. Draisaitl with Nugent-Hopkins and Holloway. Henrique between Janmark and Brown, and then Derek Ryan with Ryan McLeod and Corey Perry. If you're going, hey, that looks like the lineup from last game, it is.
It is.
On defense, Ekholm with Bouchard, Nurse with Broberg, Kulak with Ceci, no Desharnais, Kane, Carrick, Gagne, Stetcher, obviously ankle surgery. What did you make of that lineup in Game 4?
It was perfect. I mean, this is what, and Kris Knoblauch kind of shrugged it off afterward, but making that slight adjustment of putting Ryan Nugent-Hopkins down with Leon Draisaitl to give him a little bit more help, and putting a shooter on Connor McDavid's wing, because he hasn't taken a slap shot in a couple of rounds here. Right? He's been the assist guy, he's the setup guy, but to put someone who was a 20-goal scorer and Warren Foegele on his wing, a former Erie Otters alum there, was such a good small adjustment that Kris Knoblauch made in that game that made all the difference. And giving Broberg to Darnell Nurse help too. Given how well Phil Broberg has played since coming in Game 4 of that Dallas series, it really did make the puzzle pieces of the lineup fit better.
It's a good way to describe it. And Derek Ryan, we know what kind of effort we're going to get from him in the bottom 6. McLeod over to the wing, I think, has been a smart move. And then Corey Perry kind of hit or miss, mostly miss this postseason. But Brown and Janmark have been beasts so far. They
were terrific. And especially in that Game 4, obviously, when you create those goals early, and when you have that depth of scoring, it forces Paul Maurice and the Panthers to not just have to focus on Draisaitl and McDavid, and you kind of free those guys up for maybe better matchups by having Janmark play as well. It was the Matthias Janmark game.
It was the Matthias
Janmark game. Until it was a complete
game.
Blowout. Early on, it looked like the Matthias Janmark game.
He was excellent, but Conor Brown finally showing up. It took a while.
But look, he's probably 20 months now from that torn ACL. I was in the building when he hurt himself that night in Washington. And it takes so long for any athlete to get back to full performance after a knee injury like that. Tom Wilson still sort of going through that process in Washington, where it took a while for him to get back. Conor Brown is a guy who can rely on those wheels to move. It's taken a long time, but you're starting to see why the Oilers were willing to sign Conor Brown to that contract.
Yeah, and he's still a $3.25 million cap hit next year. Maybe they get him on a nice team-friendly contract, especially after the way he's performed in the playoffs. Okay, let's go to the Florida Panthers for tonight. Here's what we're anticipating. Aleksander Barkov between Evan Rodriguez and Sam Reinhart. Sam Bennett between Carter Verhaeghe and Matthew Tkachuk. I've got some questions for you about this lineup too, by the way. Anton Lundell with Eetu Luostarinen and Vladimir Tarasenko. Kevin Stenlund between Ryan Lomberg, who makes his way back into the lineup, and Kyle Okposo. On defense, no changes. Gustav Forsling with Aaron Ekblad. Nico Mikkola paired up with Brandon Montour. Oliver Ekman-Larsson with Dmitry Kulikov. So Lomberg comes in. He's a disturber, as I like to use the expletive.
You just wanted to use that button.
I use it all the time. I love it when I have the board and the road kit set up. What is the purpose of getting Lomberg in there? Do they want to muck it up with the Oilers? Is that the goal? Do they want to beat them up, essentially?
I think it's part of. I think that's part of it. But Paul Maurice has done this all playoffs. Every time after a loss, he has switched either one or both of his fourth line wingers.
Okay,
this is a very common thing for Paul Maurice after losses in the playoffs to make that change. Ryan Lomberg comes in for Stephen Lawrence.
Yes,
I wondered also if there'd be a change where Nick Cousins would come in for Kyle Okposo. But Okposo's played well in this series in kind of the limited ice time he's gotten. Obviously, he's the old guy who hasn't won the Stanley Cup sort of story for the Florida Panthers. And I think they like him in there. And maybe I think Paul Maurice is afraid to make too many changes. This is a lineup that worked for the first 3 games of the series. It worked for the end of the Rangers series. And he doesn't want to reinvent the wheel here. A little change to bring in Lomberg, a guy who's been around the team for a long time, who played in the final last year, a little more experience in the situation than Stephen Lawrence.
All right. What's going on with Matthew Tkachuk? Because it feels like he hasn't really had that much of an impact outside of taking that penalty where him and Sam Bennett were mucking it up with Connor McDavid, and they created a 5-on-3 opportunity for Edmonton. Edmonton scored its first power play goal of the series, breaking that 0-for-10 run that they were on the power play. When you look at his line or stat line from this postseason, through 21 games, Tkachuk, 5 goals, 15 assists, 20 points. So the points are there, but I'm not seeing it or getting that impactful Matthew Tkachuk in this series through 4 games. That's how I see it as an outside observer. You've watched this Florida Panthers team more than I have. How are you seeing his performance right now?
I agree with you. He has not been the impact player in this series the way that Aleksander Barkov, Gustav Forsling, Sergei Bobrovsky has been. But essentially, all the Panthers need is 1 game out of him to win the Stanley Cup. But this is a guy he's their emotional leader. Sasha Barkov, no offense to him as the captain, he's kind of a very sort of reserved sort of player. Matthew Tkachuk is their emotional engine. He is Matthew Tkachuk is the straw that stirs the drink, to use old Reggie Jackson line of kind of what the Panthers do.
Right.
And it's not just the post whistle mucking it up stuff. It's the getting in front of the net. It's running the goalie, or at least getting places in the crease where goalies don't like him to be. He is that sort of agitating player, but Matthew Tkachuk's also evolved a lot from his time with the Calgary Flames, where he's such a talented offensive player now that he doesn't need to do those things. He doesn't need to just be the agitator getting under opponent's skin. He's still very good at doing it when he has to, but this is a guy where he is a point-of-game player in this playoffs, and he is one of the big reasons, along with Sasha Barkov and Gustav Forsling and Bobrovsky, why the Panthers even got to this point.
What do you think of the job the Oilers have done on Sam Reinhart so far?
Terrific so far. And this is a guy who scored 57 goals in the regular season, 9 on this playoff run. He's a legitimate goal scorer who's about to get paid.
He's going to get paid.
He's going to get paid. Probably an 8-year, maybe $88 million sort of contract.
That's nice.
From the Florida Panthers. So I can't see Bill Zito letting Sam Reinhart walk away. But for all the problems that Darnell Nurse has had in this playoffs and the struggles and all that, this is a blue line that's done a really nice job of keeping things to a minimum, even losing 1-goal games, close games in the series. They've done a good job on Reinhart, and they've had to. I mean, this is whether it's the forward checking him or Brett Kulak, we talked on the way here about how useful a player Brett Kulak is. They've done a really good job of limiting him, but where the Panthers want to get him going is on the power play. I was at Game 4 of the Panthers-Rangers series, overtime. Blake Wheeler takes a penalty. The way the Panthers power play works is tic-tac-toe, and Sam Reinhart wide open in the slot and has a great shot from there. The Oilers have done a good job so far of preventing him from doing that.
See if they can do that again tonight. Let's go to starting goalies for this one for the Oil. 25-year-old Stuart Skinner, a 12-8 record, 251 goals against average, 898 save percentage, 1 shutout in 20 games this postseason. Lifetime Skinner, 17-14 record, 291 GAA, 892 save percentage, 1 shutout, like we mentioned, in 32 career postseason games. At the other end of the rink, it is Sergei Bobrovsky. Bobrovsky's back on the case. The 35-year-old, 15-16 record this postseason, 227 GAA, 909 save percentage, 2 shutouts in 21 games this year. And then lifetime Bobrovsky, 44-41 record, 285 GAA, 906 save percentage, 3 shutouts in 91 games in the playoffs in his career. Okay, what kind of Bobrovsky are you expecting tonight?
A bounce back. And that was the talk of the Florida Panthers yesterday at practice, again at the morning skate. He's too good of a goaltender to have another game like that. Allowing 5 goals on 16 shots and getting yanked from Game 4 for Anthony Stolarz. To a man, the Florida Panthers were saying this was not on Bobrovsky. This wasn't like he had a terrible game. Everything broke down in front of him. The Oilers were solved the rush game. They were able to get going, 2-on-1s, that sort of thing, and scoring goals that it's really on the defense in front of Sergei Bobrovsky more than on him. But, of course, you allow 5 goals on 16 shots, you get pulled out of a game. Fans are yelling, Sergei, and a lot of the talk surrounds Sergei Bobrovsky.
Right.
But he's too good of a goaltender. We saw this with Andrei Vasilevsky on those Tampa Bay championship runs, that after a loss, he was something like a 960 save percentage and had shutouts in all the clinchers. I fear for Oilers fans that this is a Sergei Bobrovsky sort of night.
Well, it could happen. They're going to need some McMagic if Edmonton wants to drag this series back. And then there's not a guarantee, but I know Matthew Tkachuk made a comment like that. This is their job, is to close it out, and that's what they're going to do. I'm not calling it a Mark Messier type of guarantee, but
that's not a Mark Messier.
That's not a Mark Messier guarantee.
It's a confident player. The Panthers are a confident team. Sure.
Yeah. Okay, question of the night one more time. If Edmonton wins tonight, is this series going 7 games? Text us 780-218-9999 and then get into the nasty chat. If you're just joining us, hit that thumbs up button. People trickling their way in, and we appreciate that. Tom Gazzola, Steve Whyno from the Associated Press, live on location, Hudsons on Bourbon Street at West Edmonton Mall. Fergie's Prostate just walked in. Jay and Andrea are here. Cal in the Park is here. Rip City Step is here. Yep. Hello, sir. And it should be a good time. I think my dad's coming too. He's dragging my mom out here. He's got the booth next to us, so he's good.
It's a good place.
It's a good place. It's a good spot. And everybody, the entire staff here is ready to go. Steve, Jeff, Jazz, everybody is pumped up and anticipating maybe Edmonton pushing this to a 6th game, bringing it back to our fine city on Friday night. What do you make of the 2 days between games? Because there's been a lot of complaints about that. Like this. It's June 18th. We're 10 days into the series, and we're only getting into Game 5 here.
It's a must, though, because the travel's so insane.
Right.
And there are no direct flights. I hate to tell people, there's no direct flights between Fort Lauderdale or Miami and Edmonton. They don't exist. So
your route was ridiculous.
My route on the way here was Air Transat from Fort Lauderdale to Montreal all the way across your home and native land here to Alberta, and the airport again being 8,000 kilometers outside of town.
Yeah, it's not that close.
But no,
thanks for using kilometers.
Yeah.
Instead of miles.
I've lived in Canada before.
That's right.
I can do the translation to Celsius to
Fahrenheit
that's right. As well, and all that. But for the teams, look, they have the charter flights. They're able to go direct. But everyone else working the series, it's hard to get between these two cities, and I think that's what the NHL did to bake this in. If this were Dallas, Florida, this were Edmonton, Toronto, certainly easier to do that sort of travel back and forth. But it is a difficult travel, and the Panthers waited an extra day to come up here the first time. Both these teams traveled on Sunday. They got a full day to fly, and then got on the ice Monday, play Tuesday night. I know that people kind of lose the attention span a little bit for people who are not Oilers or Panthers fans, but for logistics of this series, you need it.
It's insane, and it has been a nightmare for a lot of people traveling. That's part of why you stayed behind too, right?
It is one of the reasons, and of course the belief that there might be a Game 6 in the series.
Exactly. Right. There you go. All right, let's get to some text before we go into some audio from the locker rooms. This one comes in, no name on it, just says drop the puck. I wanted to get to that one. Hontario Momes texting in. Hontario Momes says this Bobrovsky myth is getting out of hand. He was all right in the first few rounds. He was terrible at the start of last year's playoffs, terrible in the Stanley Cup Final last year, and he was really good in the first 3 games. He's not some brick wall that everyone's trying to portray him as. What would you say to what Rip City said there.
Well, I think the Oilers needed to crack Bobrovsky to kind of get rid of that aura of invincibility. There was a certain point in game one where whatever the Oilers did, and they played so well, they weren't going to beat Bobrovsky. Whatever they did, it was like a force field around the net. And as soon as I thought when that trickler from Matthias Ekholm in game 2 went in, that was going to be the floodgates. I thought that was the chance for the Oilers to say, okay, we can beat this guy. He's not this unbeatable force and all those sort of things. But then you see in game 4, and they light him up for 5 on 16 shots, and you realize he does have the possibility of wearing down. This is not until last year that Bobrovsky played this late into the playoffs. The question is he wearing down, or was that an aberration?
Right. Interesting. That was Hontorio Momes, not Rip City Step, that text that one in about the Bobrovsky myth. Let's go to Jasmine. Says, Tommy, hoping for the full max amount of post and pre-shows, but we will go Oilers. Thank you, Jasmine. Appreciate that. Andrea getting in there. So jealous my nephew and his fiance met Gene Principe Saturday.
Can we inflate Gene's ego by saying that?
Well, he literally chanted, "We love Gene" with everybody.
That's fantastic.
And that's like out of his character. It was great. It was he could run for mayor here, okay? You know Gene. Everybody loves.
I've been long enough to run for mayor, but I would vote for Gene.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gene has won our game-winning goal pool in the past and in previous series. He was back in Toronto, back in the Montreal Tampa series.
How big does that pot get?
720.
Damn, I should have got in on that. I know I was in a rush that day. My bad, Steve. My bad. Let's go to Jason in Leduc. Texas. So here is my moment of clairvoyance for all of you. Be reassured. The Oilers win tonight, 3-2 in OT or 4-2 with an empty net. And yes, the Oilers will win Game 6 as well, 3-1. Game 7, well, I can't see that far into the future yet, my friends. Stay nasty, from Jason in Leduc.
I met a psychic the other night. Did I tell you this?
Where?
At Kelly's. Someone said
Go on.
they were psychic.
Go on.
And tried to tell me things about my life that were very untrue. And
what was her name?
She may have. I did not get her name.
Is it Gina?
She may have consumed some alcohol before.
She doesn't. Hi, Mary. How are you? How's it going?
But a 3-2 in overtime or a 4-2 with an empty netter.
Yeah.
I'm not sure anyone has everyone's going to have a heart attack watching this game.
They will have a heart attack. It's going to be people send in pictures of like their Apple Watch with their heartbeat, and they're like, I couldn't survive. And hang in there. Hang in there. Deep breaths, mix in a water. That's what I like to say.
Mix in a water or two.
Yeah, exactly. All right, keep those texts coming in, 780-218-9999. If Edmonton wins tonight, is this series going 7 games? All right, Zach to come. Get on here. How you doing today, buddy? You doing all right?
Oh, I'm doing good. Just trying to get the camera over here.
Yeah. I'll get the camera.
There we go.
Figure it out.
There we go.
There you are.
There we go. I got it set up.
Look
at me. Look at me. Yeah, we're live from the EST Global Studio. Man, like today's a day. Like last game, sure, yeah, must win. Could have been swept, but I feel like the Oilers have that momentum coming in from an 8-1 win. And the travel, you bring that up, and I didn't really realize that. Of course, they planned it in advance and stuff, and it's the farthest, I guess, final in between any major sport or whatever, 3,500 miles, bringing up the miles or whatever it is. But
there you go.
Thanks for translating for me.
Yeah,
yeah, 100%.
I got the kilometers ready for you too.
Yeah.
But just seeing, just understanding that's a huge thing, and traveling back and forth. Now they're back in Sunrise. Do you think that has any really effect? I know the travel, jet lag, and everything, but because Florida and Edmonton are so different in, I guess, their fans' passion, and there is passionate fans, of course, in Florida.
Ariana Grande's a fan, Zach.
Of course, and she has been
That's
her
all
whole
you
life.
need to know.
I know, that's all. I shouldn't be discrediting them, and I feel like I am when I'm saying this, but does it have really any effect on the Oilers that they are just playing in Florida, with the fans
I guess
they have there?
I know what you're saying, because that building the other night here was ridiculous.
It was insane.
That was so loud. That's the loudest I've ever seen it or heard it. And I think the team did build off of it. It added to the energy. It built off the energy, and Florida had nothing. Can Florida get the same way? Can Amerant Bank Arena get that way?
Yeah, it was game 1 and game 2. It was loud in there.
Yeah,
and it's obviously a newer sort of fan base, given that this team has only been around since 1993.
Yeah.
But the fan base that is built there, that fills that building, is passionate and loud. we want the cup chance in game 2. No, please do not underestimate the Florida crowd, because they've been in it all playoffs. Certain years ago, when there was maybe 10, 12,000 people in the building, and it was a regular season Tuesday, maybe the atmosphere, you kind of have to manufacture some energy.
Yes.
No one's going to have to manufacture energy in this game tonight.
I remember those days, and there was a couple of Oiler games that were there, and it was just cavernous. But it's going to be raucous in there. The cup will be in the building. I know it was in the building the other day, but
I ran into Phil Pritchard on my way out. He had a very easy night the other night because he didn't have to hand it out.
Yes, he didn't have to pull it out of its case. Conn Smythe's trophy stayed in there. There's Trev, the Savage. Everybody's showing out up here. My dad's texting in. He says, give a shout out to our old neighbor in Phoenix, John Hanna.
Oh, yeah.
All right. What's up, John Hanna? Love it. I love it. And Genevieve, hello to our old neighbors in Phoenix. This is good. This is an international show. Steve's in town from D.C. Stayed behind to see if there is a Game 6. We'll see if the Oilers can push it to a Game 6 tonight. We'll get to more of your texts as well, 780-218-9999. We're live on location, Hudsons, Bourbon Street at West Edmonton Mall. And in the meantime, before we get to Matt Kassian, who'll be joining us in about 10 minutes with Game Changers, we do need to get to some audio. We're going to go inside the Oilers room to start. I'll let Zach to come pick who we hear from first. Zach, take it away, buddy.
Yeah, I love always hearing from the head coach first. So let's hear from Kris Knoblauch of the Edmonton Oilers.
Ask you about the depth that the third and fourth line guys are providing, guys like Conor Brown and Janmark. And throughout last series, everyone was talking about how great Dallas's depth was, and coming in here, everyone was talking about what great depth they had. Do you think they've been a little bit underrated, and just a thought on how they're playing right now?
Yeah, no, I think they've been playing really well. Obviously, this series they've been getting a lot of attention, as they should. But throughout the playoffs, they've been really big for us, whether it's been on the penalty kill or 5-on-5 minutes. Rico hasn't showed up as much in offensively through the playoffs as he had through the regular season, and a lot of that had to do with his injury. Now that he's feeling a lot better, he's obviously feeling a lot quicker and making better plays. And but yeah, those three have been really good. And then also you look at our our fourth line. Derek Ryan's been a big part of our penalty kill. We've been getting a lot of attention on how well the penalty kill's been. Derek Ryan's been a big part of that, and so is McLeod. And McLeod's got 2 goals in his last 2 games. So yeah, we're very comfortable with our depth.
Right side, fifth row, Slav.
Kris, considering the situation the Panthers are in, they're playing at home, chance to win the Stanley Cup. Fair to assume they're going to come flying out of the gates. What would you like to see from your team to kind of counter that and for you guys to get off to a good start?
Just play with composure. There's going to be a lot of excitement in the building, and they'll obviously want to come out with a big statement, period, right from the start, just because of the way Game 4 went, and them obviously just playing back to their identity. We have to be ready for that pressure, and not be making the smart plays with the puck and not giving it away. Just anticipating that pressure is going to be coming, and we have to be smart with our puck decisions.
Left side, second row, George.
Before Game 4, a lot of your guys were talking about we have nothing to lose here, down 3-0. Now we're hearing the drag them back to Alberta. As a coach, is that kind of the message here to guys? Let's just go.
Absolutely. I think we've been in a really good frame of mind. I think our guys feel confident. And I said yesterday about what my role is. I don't think it's been very much, just because I think the players are in a really good position where they're loose, they're confident, they know their back's up against the wall. They know it's going to be a very difficult task to do this. But, I don't think there's any lack of confidence on being able to do this. We've been on very difficult positions before, not in the Stanley Cup Final, of course. But, they're just enjoying it as much as they can.
Right side, second row, Ryan.
Kris, same lineup tonight?
You'll have to wait.
Okay, fair enough. Just on the subtle adjustments you made with the lines, you moved Nugent Hopkins down to Draisaitl's line. Do you feel like you found a configuration now that you like the feel of, and what do you think that's done for your look offensively?
It's going to change with line matchups. Obviously, we're in Edmonton. We've got last change, and now that we're here, they'll have their last change, and they'll have their matchups that they'll want, and that'll dictate maybe a little bit what we want to do. Whether we're changing a winger or whatever it is, but the fact that we scored 8 goals, I don't think had anything to do with the lines that I put together or anything like that. I think we were just ready and capitalized on our chances that we had. And so capitalizing on chances that we had, I don't think has very much to do with the line configuration that I put together.
Left side.
All right. There was Kris Knoblauch, and his guys were ready for Game 4. We saw that. It was very evident. The lineup tweaks worked out. Steve, you were talking about it earlier in the show that it was the right pieces in the right places. It's likely that lineup from Game 4 remains intact for Game 5. And then the other thing, too, is Kris Knoblauch talked about the matchups, especially considering they're in Florida now. The Panthers get the last change. How do you think that's going to change things for Paul Maurice and then obviously Kris Knoblauch?
It's the reason why Florida went up 2-0 in the series, really. It's because what Paul Maurice was doing, and Kris Knoblauch acknowledged this yesterday, was hard matching Aleksander Barkov on Connor McDavid.
Right.
And for all the things, and nothing against Aaron Ekblad and Gustav Forsling, because they've been terrific too. But the one match that Paul Maurice has been trying to get in the series is Barkov on McDavid. And McDavid did have 3 points through the first 2 games of the series. So nothing, again, he wasn't shut down the way Leon Draisaitl and Zach Hyman was shut down and all those things. But that is the key for the Florida Panthers, is if they can get that matchup again, because they have the last change, and Kris Knoblauch's going to try to get Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl away from those matchups as much as physically possible.
We'll see how well he's able to do that tonight in Game 5 down in Florida. Keep those texts coming in, 780-218-9999. Throw the question of the night out there one more time. Matt Kassian is going to join us shortly. If Edmonton wins tonight, is this series going 7 games? Let us know your thoughts. And I also need to mention that portions of this hour brought to you by the fine folks over at 100.3 The Bear, Edmonton's best rock. Catch Dusty Nielsen with Yukon Jack and Scott McCord weekday mornings, and then tune into Jess Jackson on your drive home every weekday afternoon. I've been doing previews and recaps with Jess all playoffs long. Had a good chance to chat with her and tee up this game today. So they are our awesome friends over at The Bear, and it's great to be partnered up with them. Once again, they were our brother station when we were 1260, TSN
Yes.
1260. They were literally right down the hallway. Now they're down the street, but we're partnered up with them. Edmonton's best rock, The Bear, Steve. I can't do the growl that good, but I try.
You can try.
I try. All right, we're going to go back inside the Oilers locker room. Cass is looking to connect here, and we'll go to actually, I'll just let Zach to come pick. I'm letting Zach to come in YouTube Trev pick now. Go for it, Zach to come.
Wow, so much pressure to pick. Nah, I'm just kidding. But,
settle down. You can handle it.
This guy had a huge game last game, and, his first name's also Connor, but he isn't McDavid. Here is Connor McDavid's old teammate from the Erie Otters, Conor Brown.
Your team has kind of this thing this year where you walk yourselves into a tight spot and then scrap your way out of it. Can you maybe just, reflect on that habit you have of putting yourself in this spot, but whatever you dig deep and find to get out of it, and how it applies tonight?
Mm-hmm. I think over the course of the season, you have to learn how to go through adversity, and you have to go through adversity multiple times to kind of get that experience and be comfortable in it. And I think we obviously put ourselves in that spot early, being second to last, not being in a playoff spot at Thanksgiving, U.S. Thanksgiving, which is kind of the mark, which a lot of people talk about. And then obviously being down in the Vancouver series. So I think you got to be comfortable, learn how to be comfortable, and the only way you can learn is by going through it. And this team always, since I've been here, not just this year, has always had a tendency to play its best when our back's against the wall for whatever reason. And I think we've just had a lot of experience with it.
Left side, first row, Derek.
Hey, Connor. The last series against Dallas, everyone was talking about what great depth Dallas had, bottom 2 lines, and you guys outplayed them. This same thing this year, this series, talking about how great their depth is. What is it about you guys that you guys have risen to that challenge? And no one's talking about your depth, but maybe they should, because you guys are playing really well in this series, particularly the last game.
I think obviously there's always going to be narratives around the around series, but I think we believe in our depth, and I think that the way that our depth plays too is, we try to grab momentum, we try to, possess the puck and set it up for the big boys as well. So, maybe that doesn't show up on the score sheet as much, but in our room, I think we're very comfortable with the depth of this club. I think it's shown as the playoffs have gone on.
Right side, fifth row, Slav.
Zach, it'd probably be fair to assume the Panthers are going to come flying out of the gates tonight. What do you think are going to be the keys for you guys to kind of counter that and get off to a good start?
Yeah, I mean, you'd imagine they'd be coming out flying. It's an opportunity for them to win the cup on home ice, so we're obviously well aware of that. Our job is to come out flying as well. I think there's an excitement in our group after winning that game. I think there's confidence in our group, so there's no reason not to come out excited and up to the task.
Left side, second row, Mark.
Zach, if teams are always looking for ways they can still get better at this point in the series. For you guys, it would be your power play. The power play has been good, but the puck hasn't gone in except for a 5-on-3. Is it time? I would say, if you guys are going to succeed here, does that power play need to check in at 5-on-4 and actually get some pucks across the line here?
Yeah, I mean, similar to the Dallas series, last series, everybody was asking where the power play was, and then, we scored at the end of the series when it matters. So I think on our power play, we always talk about scoring timely goals, and it's not about necessarily how many you score, but when you score them. And I think there's a confidence in our power play as well. Like you mentioned, we have had a lot of looks, and I think that's the key to goal scoring is not being frustrated when you're getting your looks. If you're not getting your looks, it's another question. Then you should adjust something. But if you're getting your looks, you've got to be confident that they're going to go in because you've been doing it for a very long time. So we're a confident power play, and we seem to find the big goals at the right times, and we'll need them as the series moves on.
Left side, third row, Pierre.
A question for Connor. Can you allow yourself to think what the environment would be like if there's a Game 6 in Edmonton, if you can win tonight and stretch this out and bring this home to the fans in Edmonton?
Yeah, well, every time you're back in Edmonton, it seems to get louder and louder when you didn't expect it could get any louder. So, that's the goal. We're going to try to drag them back to Alberta. We love playing on home ice. This is going to be a difficult game, and that being said, we feel confident, in the type of game that it's going to be, and obviously with that anticipation of getting back to Alberta.
All right, there was Conor Brown and Zach Hyman. Good stuff from them. Couple of veterans that know what to expect tonight. And yes, it has been getting louder and louder in the building here, and I'm sure it's going to be quite loud down in Sunrise tonight. Tom Gazzola, Steve Whyno, live on location. Hudsons, Bourbon Street. Getting ahead of myself,
Bourbon
Steve.
Street, yes. We're on White
Bourbon
Avenue,
Street.
yeah.
Shout out to the Nasties who are here. Twitter Mary's here. Cal in the Park is here. Rip City Step. Trev the Savage. We've got Vera Montenegro and his lovely wife Ginger are here. Jay and Andrea. Rip City Step. Fergie's Prostate. I think I've gotten through most of them, and many more on the way. Thank you to everybody who's come out to Hudson's, whether it's White Ave or Bourbon Street, throughout when we started this in February. I think maybe it was January, but great support as always. And to all of you who watch and listen, it's been great. It's been a fun year on the Oil Stream pre- and post-game show. So without further ado, this guy has been excellent. He's had some fun. He is our game analyst. He's Matt Kassian. And we're time now to get to Game Changers with Cass, who is in his home studio. Hello, Cass. How are you?
Hey, guys. I'm doing well. I'm excited for this one. This is for all the people that were yelling at me earlier on Two Guys and a Goalie about how they would rebel and mutiny if I didn't put on the hat with the little tilt to it.
Yes.
So the EST hat is on for all you extrastitious people that were yelling at me today in the nasty chat. But gentlemen, I'm excited for this one. It's a little scary, a little nervous, as you've both already mentioned. Your backs are against the wall here, and as I mentioned on the post-game show, the Oil Stream post-game show the other day, you bought yourself some time, but you didn't buy yourself any space because there's none left. So obviously a huge game, one that I'm interested to see how it plays out, Tom, operating with a little bit of hope still, because there's still hope left until there isn't. But for now, there is. Should be an exciting one unless they get scored on first very, very quickly, and then we could be in for a long and disappointing evening.
Cass, well said, buddy. All right, let's get into Game Changers. Brought to you by Damon Bunting, Remax Elite. Damon Bunting, consistent, top-producing realtor in Greater Edmonton and among Western Canadian Remax realtors. He and his team would love to help you find that right home or make the move from your current home. Check him out, DamonBunting.com, or visit his Instagram at Damon Bunting Real Estate. I like what you did with Game Changers tonight, Cass. Number 2 in particular, but we need to go through number 1 first. Bob Father returns, Cass.
Back at it. A lot of talk about have the Oilers solved Bobrovsky and have they cracked his confidence, and I don't think so. At least you don't want to think that way if you're the Edmonton Oilers. You don't want to take the 8 goals that you scored for granted. You don't want to take chasing Bobrovsky from the net for granted and think that it's going to all of a sudden be easy. We very well could see another game here where Bobrovsky is right back to playing how he has the rest of the series. I mean, he's had a great series so far, and I don't even think he was horrible in Game 4. You had some good looks, you scored some goals, and you chased them because they were like, well, at this point, no point in keeping him in the net the rest of the game. Might as well give him a little bit of a break. So you're going to have to approach this with the same attitude today. I mean, you're going to have to crack Bobrovsky again. Now, if you score a whole bunch early, if you can find a way to be out of the gate so hot offensively that you put a couple in, well, maybe you can instill a little bit of doubt in Bobrovsky and in the Florida Panthers, but they're going to be coming out focused, red hot, ready to go. They're going to, the questions were asked of many of the Edmonton Oilers today, they're going to come out flying, the Florida Panthers. They're going to want to win this on home ice. They're not viewing it as like, oh, the series is changed and the tide has turned. They're viewing it as, well, you know what? Yeah, we didn't get it in their building. We knew they were going to play. Now we're going home to our barn to win our game in front of our fans. It's our cup. That's the mentality they have. Bobrovsky is going to be a huge part of that. Got to try to get to him early. Much like the first couple games, you can't let him feel comfortable the whole time, and you have to find a way to get one early. If you let Bobrovsky settle in here, it's going to be much harder to score. Don't want him to feel it, but Tom, I'm not buying into the you solved him, you cracked him. I just think you need to keep doing the same things. You need to get pucks to the net. Need to get bodies to the net. That's something that did much better in Game 4 than than in Game 2 and Game 3. Find ways to get greasy ones, good bounces happen to those who put the puck to the net with bodies there, Tommy. You got to try to get to Bobrovsky because he's going to be bringing it again tonight.
Pardon me for chuckling. I thought you were going to drop a J on right. Bobrovsky. When you said Bobrovsky. That's what I was anticipating. Yeah. So anything on Bobrovsky, Whyno?
Well, that's why we just call him the Bob. It's easier that way.
It is way easier. That's why you guys are the pros. You're the veterans. Yeah.
You're the pros.
That's why we call him the Bob.
The Bob.
Yes. No. Well, I completely agree with you. The fact is, the Oilers, as much as great as they did in Game 1, Game 2 and 3, they got away from getting pucks and bodies to the net, and Bobrovsky kind of had a field day a little bit, and that absolutely is the difference. And instilling some confidence in knowing you can beat him is what one of your listeners were saying earlier. He's not invincible, and the Oilers have shown that.
Right.
Yep.
All right, that was number 1 on Bobrovsky for Game Changers. Number 2, this one's a tongue twister, and I appreciate you doing this, Cass. How much wood can a Tkachuk chuck if a Tkachuk could chuck wood?
Well, Tom, as much wood as a Tkachuk could chuck if a Tkachuk could chuck wood.
Yes, that was very smooth.
Yeah, very smooth. I practiced. There's been some noise. People have kind of started to say, and in Dusty Nielsen on the morning show today, there was a lot of questions and some thoughts about, well, Tkachuk has kind of been quiet. You haven't seen much of him. And I disagree a little bit. He's been around it. They're up 3-1. He hasn't had to overproduce in the series. Now, he's had some good looks, had a couple great looks. One in particular in the first period in Game 4 where Stuart Skinner made a massive save. Another one in the third period where Stuart Skinner again made a massive save on him. But Tkachuk has been around it. And, some of the questions even for him from the media asking about his production, it's like, if you look at his numbers, he's still got really good numbers. Now, he maybe hasn't been driving the play as much as we expected. Maybe some of his antics haven't been quite to the level that we expected. But I think he's still positionally had a strong series, and he's made some key plays at key moments thus far. I would look, similar to the Bob having a game tonight, I think you're going to get the absolute best of Matthew Tkachuk, where he wants to win this thing on home ice. You've seen him, I think, play decently well and maybe not be the absolute driving force for the Florida Panthers, who are incredibly deep and have a lot of other guys that can be driving forces. But I would expect you see his game level and the rat antics just ratchet up tonight, where he's going to be full Tkachuk. He's not going to be half Tkachuk. He's going to be full Tkachuk today. You're going to see him around it. They're after Stuart Skinner's last game. They're in that dressing room, guaranteed. They're talking about getting to Stuart Skinner and getting in his face and making him uncomfortable and not letting him feel it, because he's feeling pretty good after that last game. So expect Tkachuk to be around it tonight, guys. I think if the Florida Panthers want to win tonight, I would fully expect it to be not necessarily on the back or shoulders of Matthew Tkachuk, but he's probably going to have a night. He's going to be pushing for it. The Edmonton Oilers need to negate.
This is a guy, Kassu, who played on a broken sternum last year.
Yep.
Even when they were down in that series, he scored the winning goal in Game 3 of that Cup Final with a broken sternum, and then played a whole other game with it. It does feel like it's a matter of time until Matthew Tkachuk has that breakout sort of performance.
Yeah, and I think Cass, even him today, like confident words in his pregame availability. We'll probably hear him later on in the show, but not guaranteeing the win, but saying they're going to go out there and do the job, and that is to get the Stanley Cup tonight.
Yep.
Are there any guys, Cass, from a Florida standpoint that you think have been oddly quiet in this series, or do you think that they've been all at the level that they need to be at to get this thing done?
Well, they're up 3-1, Tom. So it's hard to say hard to say they haven't been at the level they needed to be at. Reinhart was strangely quiet for the most part, and maybe just. And someone said, I can't remember who said it, so I'm going to steal it from them. So my apologies to whoever this was, which player where it's like, he doesn't feel like he's done much, and you look at the score sheet and he's got 3 points. But I expected him to be around it a little bit more, or maybe not around it a little bit more, to have some better looks than he's had. Okay. So maybe he's been a little quiet, but again, you can't really say as a team that they have been, because they're up 3-1.
Mm-hmm. It is Game Changers with our game analyst, Matt Kassian. Number 1 was Bob Father returns. Number 2, how much wood can a Tkachuk chuck if a Tkachuk could chuck wood?
Good job with that, Tom.
Thank you.
Nice.
Number 3 on Game Changers tonight, brought to you by Damon Bunting, Remax Elite. Holloway's bump cast. Take it away.
Yeah, looks like he's going to be starting off moved up in the lineup, bringing a little bit of that speed, and we saw the result of it. I mean, he had a little bit more jump. Draisaitl's line had a little bit more jump. You're trying to find solutions, and we've seen Knoblauch move things around a little bit to find people to give Draisaitl the opportunity to perform. Now, I am in the camp of Draisaitl's banged up. I think, in my opinion, it's his lower back, and I think we had seen the hit where I think it was spasms, and in a physical series in the playoffs after an 82-game season, really tough to recover quickly from that. So I think he's banged up pretty significantly, but having a player that can help transport the puck, that plays with some speed, and that has been at times in this playoffs, not the whole playoffs, but at times in this playoff has found ways to be around the net and to get to the front of the net. I think that's super important. So if we're looking at, there's the Oiler players that are important. There's the obvious ones. We know McDavid's important. We know Draisaitl's important. We know Ekholm, Bouchard are important. Hyman's important on the power play. But really, right after those guys, I'm sliding in with this game heading into tonight. Dylan Holloway playing on your second line has a huge role in this hockey game, in the success of the Edmonton Oilers. Keeping that line moving, helping generate some opportunities. Again, maybe transporting the puck through the neutral zone is taking some of that burden off of Draisaitl, digging pucks out of the corners, playing physical as at times we have seen him do. Super, super important. So I think a massive key to this game, aside from your stars being your stars, is going to be the play of Dylan Holloway, kind of just lifting up Draisaitl in a lot of ways and allowing that line to have some success 5-on-5 to hopefully separate them from the Florida Panthers.
Holloway, a couple of goals in Game 4. Big night for him. Steve was talking about Holloway and then even brought up the fact that we saw Warren Foegele with Connor McDavid. What'd you think of that move? Because I was surprised when I saw it going into Game 4, but then I thought Foegele was pretty darn good with McDavid and Hyman.
Yeah, he was pretty good too. Again, you're trying to find solutions. Now, Corey Perry had spent some time there, and I love how Corey Perry just tries to get after it. Still plays, a grizzled veteran, but seemed to struggle at times a little bit from a foot speed standpoint with generating with those groups or with that group. So I wasn't, I guess, shocked that they tried someone else there. Now I thought Holloway or McLeod might be the first ones to get that bump. Now Fogel did it. Now he was okay. He was all right. He was good when he was with them in that game. You know, you did see a little bit more offensive success when Holloway was with that line, which is where you're going to see him start there today. But at the least, it gives you some options and maybe some post-penalty kill options if you need to switch things up to get those guys out there, where at least you know if if Holloway isn't having a night for whatever reason, you could try to slot Fogel back in there and hopefully get something out of the line.
Steve called it putting the right pieces in place, kind of like a puzzle, and that was the right move by Kris Knoblauch. He didn't really give away much in his pregame availability. You'll have to see what comes out tonight, but we anticipate the lines being essentially the same. Here's an interesting. Did you want to add to the Holloway?
It just like, I don't think Kris Knoblauch is giving himself enough credit for that change. And he's downplaying everything.
Yeah.
But he made the right moves, and every time he's pushed buttons in this playoffs, it's worked.
Yes. Yeah. There have been a couple of things, and I'll bring it up. Janmark on the top line, game 1 against Mac. That didn't work. And then Cass, there was something else that he did recently. Remember, there was like a goalie pull the timing was bad, and then there's been small instances where it's like, what was that? But for the most part,
he's made more right decisions than wrong decisions.
Absolutely.
I would agree. Yep, I would agree. There have been things. The goalie pull was one where that was now. I think you got to give him a little bit of grace on that because there was, I think, a bad Fogel path and Evander Kane turning the puck over in that same sequence where they pulled the goalie, and he was just trying to get a little bit of a jump. But yes, for the most part, he's been right when he has pulled the trigger on those switches for the most part. Yep. More right than wrong.
It is Game Changers with our game analyst, Matt Kassian, Tom Gazzola, Steve Whyno, live on location, Hudsons, Bourbon St at West Edmonton Mall. A bunch of AM Nasties have been here for a while. More showing up. Great to see them. And come on down. There's some tables available, a lot reserved, but it should be a fun night down here at Hudson's. They've got $5 local craft taps. Woo. Steve's going to tap into that. Yep.
$12.50 chicken tenders.
There you go. Dusty Nielsen special right there. Mm-hmm. What would you go with, Cass? They have 6 o'clock or lager, obviously. We'll have some of those later. You're going to have to try our beer. We have a beer with Alley Cat.
It's great. It's great. Yeah, I'd probably get one of those. Today. I might just go. Guys, I have a hard time getting away from wings on game day. It's a classic and a staple for a reason. So I probably would load up on some hot wings. Not too spicy. Ooh. Not too spicy, but a little hot, mild, medium.
Picante? A little picante?
A little picante. I don't know, whatever. Some hot
whatever. Okay. George and Morgan texting this one in. I want to bounce it off of both of you. Oilers' 8-1 victory is the record for the largest margin of victory by an NHL team facing elimination in the Stanley Cup Final. Previous record, 1942 Maple Leafs 9-3 win over the Red Wings. Game 5. Brother George with that one. Are we connecting some dots, or is this wishful thinking? Cass, go for it first.
The dots will connect if they come back and win the series.
Okay, right. Yeah.
Right, but for now, it's wishful thinking. I mean, you're still, as we have said, you're still behind the 8 ball, as it were, needing to pull off a trick shot here. Florida's a really good team, and it's going to be really hard to beat them 4 games in a row. We saw just in the NBA, a team that was up 3-0 loses that game, and then goes out and wins it in game 5. And Florida's going to approach it with the same thing. So for as much as we want to connect the dots, I mean, they won't be connected until you actually do it. So you still have a mountain to climb here. 3 games, you got to win. Starts with a good start tonight, starts with that first period, building some momentum and keeping hope alive. But it is wishful thinking, but it's nice to pull a little hope. And who knows, for those that are a little extrastitious, maybe it means something.
And look, and that's how athletes have to think, right? That the mountain is tall, but it's about the first step. And athletes do a really good job of convincing themselves that. But still, it's been since the Roosevelt administration. I don't know who your prime minister was at the time, since a comeback like this happened in the Cup Final with that 1942 Maple Leafs against the Detroit Red Wings. So there's a reason why it's hard to come back from a 3-0 deficit, hard to win 4 games in a row. But didn't this team win 16 games in a row in the regular season?
It did.
I know it's obviously a different kind of hockey and all those sort of things, but that's something that Kris Knoblauch talked about the other day of this team knows how to string wins together. If you're looking for a source of belief to be able to say they can pull off this comeback, that's where it comes from.
That's a good point. That's a good point, Steve. Okay, keep those texts coming in. 780-218-9999. I'll throw out the question of the night. I want to get Cass's thoughts on it as well. Question of the night is this. Pretty straightforward on it. If Edmonton wins tonight, is this series going 7 games? Cass, what would you say to that?
Oh, I'm eternally hopeful, Tom. I like being hopeful, so I'm going to say sure. Yes. Yeah. And the reality is I think, you win one game, that doesn't buy you momentum. You get 2 here, I think it can, potentially. Now, maybe it depends on how you win, but if you do win, you win in their building, that belief grows a little bit more, that momentum grows a little bit more, and, we all want to see Game 7, so sure. If they can win tonight, they string it to 7.
And that's why I know I chickened out with saying it's how they win, but it really is a matter of we got to watch this game not just for the result, but what do the Oilers look like? Do they look like themselves from Game 4? Do the Panthers? If the Panthers have another dud in them, then yeah, sure. Maybe there's a sense that they're worn out or Bobrovsky's worn out. But if we see the Panthers from Game 2, the Panthers who were at their best, right? That's a tough one.
Here's a question about the way things went in Game 4 with Edmonton stomping on the Panthers. The same way the Mavs did it to the Celtics in Game 4, and it goes back and the Celtics take care of business at home in Game 5. Cass, if you're in that room with the Florida Panthers, are they saying we need to basically go and return the favor to the Oilers like they did to them the other night?
Yeah, they're going to look at it. They're going to go, boys, we hit a couple posts in the first. We had a good start to the game, and we let Edmonton take over. But if we play our type of hockey, they can't beat us. So let's just go play our type of hockey. Let's take it to them. They're gonna turn over pucks if we pressure them. They're gonna give us our opportunities. Let's bear down on those. Get to Stuart Skinner, and we're gonna hoist the cup. That's what you're saying.
And they had the experience, Cass, of being in this spot last year on the opposite side of it, where they go it's 3-1 in that series. They go to Vegas and they get blown out of that building. Right. It was a no doubter from the first 5 minutes of that when the Golden Knights were winning the cup that night, and that's the kind of aura the Panthers are trying to kind of recapture here.
Ooh, that's kind of scary, Cass, if you think about it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why you don't think about it, Tom. As Whyno said, it's that moment to moment, not looking further ahead than that next shift. I mean, that's for Edmonton, your mentality is, if we want to win the series, I just got to go win my next shift. And then the next guy's got to go win his next shift. And then the next guy's got to go, like, it's, you compartmentalize a lot. But yeah, if you think about that too much, yeah, it's scary. But thinking about being down 3-0 is scary. So yeah.
Sure.
What's the line from Bull Durham? Don't think it can only hurt the ball club.
Yeah. It's a great line. Whyno, that's a great line. And yeah, very, very true. Apt. Yep.
Is it as simple, Cass, in your opinion, as saying just Connor and Leon have to go out there and take this game? Or is
else has to
more
play
nuanced
too
than that?
Everyone else has to play too.
Yeah, I know.
It can't just be those 2 guys. You need them. You need your stars to be your stars. Your big guns got to be your big guns. And then you need superhuman efforts from guys up and down the lineup. You need Conor Brown and Matthias Janmark to have a game like they did. Like, you need more than just Leon and Connor. But if you don't have Leon and Connor, then you're in tough.
Yeah, absolutely. 780-218-9999. Text us your thoughts. Matt Kassian joining us for Game Changer. Steve Whyno, Tom Gazzola live on location. Hudsons, Bourbon St at West Edmonton Mall. And then Zach to come in for YouTube. Trev holding things down back at EST Global HQ on the city's west end. This one from Big Uke says, do I have hope they win tonight? Yup. Am I still nervous as hell? Yup. Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final. Me in November would have never thought we could have been here. Let's go Oilers. Drag them back to Alberta. Cass, one thing I wanted to talk to you about, and maybe Steve too, because Steve, you were down doing the post game the other night after the Oilers win, and we didn't get to audio post game on the show. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl looked ornery at the podium and didn't really seem too jovial. Can we glean anything from that, Cass? And then, Steve, I want to get your reaction if you were in on that.
I was in the room.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cass, what do you think of that?
Well, I'm glad that they were not jovial because, as we have talked about at length, your backs are against the wall still. Like, you bought at least 60 more minutes. You got 60 more minutes because of the way you played, but you're still down 3-1. So, yeah, you're not excited. You're not, or not, excited isn't the right term. You're not jovial. I'll use the word that you used, and nor should you be.
Right.
So yeah, I'm happy they weren't, because you didn't take care of business. You took care of a little bit of business, and there's still more to do.
Yeah, no, and I don't even think they were ornery. I think they were very focused. I think this was and the city was jovial, like, right? The fans.
Oh yeah.
And the city of Edmonton was on fire the other night, and not figuratively, not literally, of course.
Yes.
But let fans deserve to celebrate, and the players shouldn't be celebrating. If you're up after a quarter of a football game, you're not celebrating. They're a quarter after winning the other night. They were a quarter of the way to pulling off a comeback that hasn't happened in 80 years, right? So I think it was more focused than ornery. But there's a reason why. Happy during the game, enjoy it. There was a sing-alongs in the third period. But as a team, they know that they are a quarter of the way through their job.
No, well said. And yeah, Steve, you were in the room, so you get a better sense of that. I was just watching, and I saw it on my TV in the home studio, and it kind of didn't surprise me, but I kind of liked what I saw, because they didn't look like they were too happy about it, which I can appreciate. So nice way to sum it up. Cass, any final thoughts from you?
Win, baby, win. I mean, let's again hope until there's no hope left. So I'm excited for this one, gentlemen. It should be a lot of fun.
Cass, excellent stuff as always, my friend. Looking forward to catching up with you on the post-game show.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy yourself. Not too many 6 o'clocker loggers. Keep it between.
All right. No promises. There you go, Matt Kassian with Game Changers, brought to you as always by Damon Bunting Remax Elite. If you're looking to buy or sell your home and get into a new home, hit up DamonBunting.com or visit his Instagram at Damon Bunting Real Estate. All right, let's get to some text. 780-218-9999 and the Nasty Chat. Nasty Chat looks like it's been going pretty good. I appreciate that. Keep it going. Good vibes. Let's see what happens tonight. Let's go to some text. This one says, Safety Bob here. Feeling confident. Nerves are stable. 3 simple words. Just win, baby. Oilers in 7. So the belief is there, Steve.
So the other day, I don't know if you saw this, around the corner from the rink, there are all these signs are obviously around town. Let's go Oilers.
Yeah.
The day of Game 4, there were new signs up. It just said believe. It was just a blue sign with orange lettering, and it just said believe. And it was taped up there. I wrote about this the other night because I got a chance to walk by that. There's plenty of belief in this town. And what I want your thoughts on is Conor the other night saying drag him back to Alberta has sort of become almost like the tagline of this now. What do you think of this? How did this become such a thing?
I mean, it took right away, and I think people can kind of get behind that theory. Yeah, drag these guys back, and it is going to be a dogfight, and make it painful and unpleasant for them. So I kind of like that term that he used, and I don't mind it at all that people kind of get behind it. Drag them back here. Make them suffer through another long flight, and make them set up accommodations for their families. Drag them back here. I think it resonates.
Yeah, and because of the distance of the series, right? I mean, and I'm thinking of all our colleagues who have to travel back here if there's a Game 6 and all their strange paths across North America and all those other things. But certainly for the Panthers, I think one of the things that got them the other day, and 12 years ago when the LA Kings went up on the New Jersey Devils 3-0, they got really distracted, and they admitted this later about getting their families in town and the tickets and kind of all that stuff of what order you're handing the cup out in. And so they lost Game 4 of that series. They lost Game 5 of that series. And so the Devils and Kings had to go back and forth from one coast to the other. And similar sort of situation here, where I think we saw the families kind of arrive at the arena the other day while Shania Twain was playing outside. And I think there's a little bit of, they got tight in that sort of circumstance. Now, are those nerves something that remain because you have the possibility of the cup in the building and all those sort of things? Or did that one lesson from the other night, have the Panthers kind of learned that already?
Yeah, time will tell, but you're right. And yes, the drag them back, and then it's not funny, but it's interesting because there is a lot of outside distractions while you're trying to win a Stanley Cup.
There certainly
are. One of those being Shania Twain, like you mentioned the other night. Do you have any idea who might be coming if there is a 6th game? Because everybody wants Nickelback.
I don't think there is one.
No?
I don't think there'll be a concert. There's not one in Florida right now.
Right.
But Nickelback is Conor's band.
That's
the happiest we've ever seen Conor McDavid in his life, until he eventually wins a Stanley Cup, whether it's next week or at some point down the road, was when he was introducing Nickelback at the
Canadian Music Awards.
Canadian Music Awards. That's the happiest I think I've ever seen Conor McDavid.
Or those Junos.
Yeah, one of those. But that's I'm sure if Conor has his choice, he'll be dragging the Panthers back to Alberta and having Nickelback join them.
Could you imagine? I love it. All right, keep those texts coming in. 780-218-9999. This one from BC Trav says, let's go, boys. I plan to use my Game 6 tickets Go Oilers, BC Trav. All right, Zach to come. Let's hear from the Florida Panthers. You decide who we hear from on the Panthers side of things first.
Oh boy, well, let's hear from the guy who's been a little bit quiet in this series, also known as the Rat or the Turtle. There's different animal names that you can call him, and he's joined.
Which one do you like more?
I think Rat is more. Rat would be it. Yeah.
More apropos.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that one fits better myself. He's also joined in this interview by his sidekick, Aleksander Barkov. Here they are now.
Tonight to help your team win.
Yeah, looking forward for hopefully my best game of the series tonight. I thought last game was nowhere near good enough, and I'm way better than that. And maybe the last 4 periods, even going back to the third period of Game 3, can be a lot better. So just I don't know. Good part about us is it's not about one guy. It's not about individuals here. We have a chance to capture the biggest goal of our life tonight. So we're gonna go do that.
Front right.
Hey, Matt, when you signed here, you kind of knew about Florida, but then they built this facility. You guys moved in about, 4 or 5 months ago.
Mhm.
For you, kind of just the overall community aspect of growing the sport here, what's it been like for you to kind of see that as someone who chose to come here and see where it's all going? And obviously with the backdrop of now you guys have that chance to win the biggest thing tonight.
Yeah, I just think that the organization does such an unbelievable job of giving us every tool to go out and succeed. And whether it's full-time chef or incredible strength room or every cold tub, hot tub, sauna, steam room. I mean, it's just our own place where we can come in. It's not too far from where everybody is, except for a little bit further for Barky, but it's good for me. It's incredible. I know they've been talking about it for a few years, and to have it, I think it's a great place for everybody to get better, and it gives you every single tool to get there. And I mean, it's not just to credit the new practice rink, but it just brings all the guys closer together, and you spend more time with each other. And it's probably a big reason why we're in the position where we are with a chance to close it out tonight.
Front left.
Barky, are you going to move closer to the facility? You had success with other coaches here, obviously not the level of success that you've had with Paul. When did you realize that he was going to be the right guy for this group? When did you realize that what he was saying was actually going to work for you, for the guys in this room?
Well, there's a reason he's coached so many years in this league, and for a long time in one organization. He was with Jets for a long time, with Carolina, and he's seen a lot of hockey. And literally whatever he says, he means it. So I think going back to the first year when we had those tough moments in the regular season, and he would give us game plan, or he would just tell us, all right, boys, it's time to wake up, literally, and what to do. And it literally worked almost every time. So that's probably when we realized that, okay, you got to listen to him.
We'll stay in the front left.
This one's for both of you guys. I mean, how important is Ryan Lomberg to this locker room, and how amped up are you guys to have him back in the lineup tonight?
Yeah, he's very important. He's a vocal guy. Obviously, everyone sees what he's doing on the ice. He's electric. He's fast. He's physical. He brings that fun energy in the locker room and on the ice, and in the games he's never quiet. That's a good thing. So he brings a lot of that to the team, and we're happy to have him.
Yeah, that's perfect. We're excited to have him back. Lots of great energy, so he's going to bring that for us tonight.
Back left.
Matthew, just to follow up for you, when you said the 2-day break helped, besides just appreciating the position that you're in, how else did it help you guys?
I think it was probably good to. I mean, I guess you can look at it both ways. After losing Game 4, you want to play the next night to change that and to get momentum back. But I think the longer it goes, the more you realize and can change things and can adapt and realize that, even though it is a series, we've done an unbelievable job of, whether it's been a win or loss, parking the last game, learning things from it. But whatever happened, you can't change it. So whether you win or lose, it's done. So now we come into Game 5 not thinking that we, lost Game 4, but this is an opportunity now to win it all. You go out there and you leave everything out there. Play our defensive style first. Don't give them anything easy, and try to come out here with a win tonight for childhood goals. So I think it's been really good the last few days to kind of have a little bit of a break, and we're going to use that to our advantage tonight.
There you go. That was Sasha Barkov and Matthew Tkachuk. Of course, the Panthers on the cusp. One more win, and they get to lift the Stanley Cup. The Oilers trying to make sure that doesn't happen, drag this series back, as Connor McDavid said, to Alberta, and game time about 25 minutes away, a little bit longer because there was a little bit more of a ceremony going into it. But we will roll on here on the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show, live on location, Hudsons, Bourbon Street at West Edmonton Mall. Tom Gazzola, Stephen Whyno from the Associated Press. Zach to come back at Global HQ of EST here on the city's west side. We do have more audio to get to. We do have a few other tidbits that I want to get to. I had some text that I was looking at. We do have polls. What kind of polls are you putting out? You put out a bunch, Zach, to come. What's the latest one here?
Yeah, the latest one I got is, what name do you like more for Matthew Tkachuk? I got Rat, Turtle, Rat King, and then somebody said in the nasty chat, Returtle. So, and then Genitil said, Returtle sounds like a French pasta supper, which is pretty funny to me. I don't know if I like the combo.
Ratatouille, yeah.
Yeah. We're going with Rat. I voted for Rat.
Rat was the vote, yeah.
That one works. All right. Keep those coming in. 780-218-9999. David Pagnotta, our good friend, who did make the trek back down to Florida, says initial roster report on NHL's media site shows same lineup from Game 4 for the Oilers tonight, and that includes no Evander Kane.
And teams are stepping out on the ice for warm-ups right now, as we can see in front of us here.
Perfect. Yes, there we go. And if there's anything of note, we will pass that along your way. Here are the anticipated lineups for Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final for the Oilers. McDavid between Foegele and Hyman. Draisaitl between Nugent-Hopkins and Holloway. Henrique centering Janmark and Brown. Derek Ryan between Ryan McLeod and Corey Perry. And then on defense, no changes. Ekholm paired up with Bouchard. Darnell Nurse with Philip Broberg. Brett Kulak with Cody Ceci. I want to ask you this. I know you're not covering the Oilers day-to-day. You're covering the Caps. But from what you've seen of Cody Ceci, how would you describe him, Steve?
In this series, he was pretty dreadful early on in the series.
Right.
Those 2 goals the Panthers score, one of them is him and Darnell Nurse kind of being missing or having a miscue on their coverage, a little bit late of a back check down the ice. And then the other one was losing a puck battle. I mean, He goes in the corner with Sam Bennett, and you win that. You pin him against the boards. You get the puck there. That goal doesn't happen. There's a chance that the Oilers win that game. But he struggled, and there's a reason why Kris Knoblauch made him a healthy scratch at this point in the series. But you need him to be a number 6 defenseman. You can't count on Cody Ceci to be a top 4 or a top pairing defenseman. If he's playing between 15 and 18 minutes of ice time a night, he's an effective, useful kind of player. But if you need to count on him to play 20, it's too much.
Right.
I think it's a situation the Panthers are having with Dmitry Kulikov as well, where if you are able to play these guys in the amount of roles or amount of minutes they should be playing or should be slotted in playing, then Cody Ceci is a player who can help you win as a bottom pairing defenseman.
Right. And his game has come under fire. And, we've gone hot and cold with him a lot. Some parts of the year we've defended him. Other parts of the year he's taken some lumps for sure. Okay.
Does he have a cup ring from Pittsburgh?
No, he doesn't. No, he was just
a
1 year in Pittsburgh for CC, and then he came here to Edmonton. But you do like Brett Kulak's game on the flip side.
Yeah, Brett Kulak is a very useful player.
Yeah.
And you made a very good point as we were coming over here, that he gets better as the hockey gets better.
Yes.
And I think that's a perfect description of Brett Kulak, where you put him with a good partner and you kind of let him responsibly take care of defending. You're not asking for a whole lot of offense from him. You don't need that. You need, just like when Darnell Nurse, when he was injured the other night and only played those 3 shifts after getting that hit from Evan Rodriguez on his right side, that you need someone to eat up minutes. And as much as Darnell Nurse's play has been maligned in this playoffs, and certainly he has not looked like a number 1 defenseman, you need him to be there to play those minutes. And Brett Kulak, too. He same sort of thing, where you got to get through a 16-minute game, and Brett Kulak is the perfect kind of defender to ask him to do exactly what he knows how to do and not too much more.
Yep. And I asked this because there's going to have to be changes next year. I know we've got hockey to be played still before we start going into next season mode, but some of those discussions have crept in on some of our shows on the station. But
It's going to happen fast too.
It's going to happen fast.
No matter when this series ends, you're going to have the buyout window, the draft.
Yep.
Jack Campbell being bought out. All these sort of things are going to come fast and furious. But July 1st, really not that far away here.
No, less than 2 weeks. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. June 18th, and we're talking about Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final. Okay, Panthers lineup. This is what we expect. If there's any changes, myself or Steve will catch them, or Zach to come, and we will point them out. But we're anticipating Aleksander Barkov between Evan Rodriguez and Sam Reinhart. Sam Bennett between Carter Verhaeghe and Matthew Tkachuk. And then you've got Anton Lundell between Eetu Luostarinen and Vladimir Tarasenko. Kevin Stenlund with Ryan Lomberg and Kyle Okposo. I want to ask you about Tarasenko kind of telling the Senators he's going to the Panthers. What did you make of that when he got the trade?
This is why you have a no trade clause. This is why you have a no move clause. You say that there's only one place I want to go. Trade me to the Florida Panthers.
Right.
And then this is a guy who won the Stanley Cup with the St. Louis Blues in 2019. Younger than, probably certainly had a bigger impact. But when you talk about trade deadline acquisitions working out,
right?
Vladimir Tarasenko is that guy, and he did hold all the leverage over Steve Stais and management in Ottawa. That he did that, but that's why you signed that contract. You sign a contract so you can control where you go.
Scored a nice goal the other night too. Redirection
Nice
goes
player.
in. Yeah, it
really nice player, and not being counted on to lead the way like he did with the St. Louis Blues, but bringing sort of that championship experience. The opposite of a guy like Okposo, also gotten the Panthers got to the deadline where hasn't won before. Old guy. This is a guy who has that winning experience of knowing what it's like to hoist that trophy,
which is valuable certainly this deep in the postseason.
And Evander Kane is not on the ice. So if there was any debate about Evander Kane playing tonight, no, he is scratched for a third consecutive game.
All right, he's dealing with what is it called? Athletic pubalgia, aka sports hernia.
The sports hernia, yes.
Yeah, Cass had it, and he had to get surgery back in his playing days, and he always calls it athletic pubalgia. So
that's a different kind of word, yes.
Yes, it is. It's funny to say. Sports hernia keeping out Evander Kane tonight. Gustav Forsling paired up with Aaron Ekblad, Nico Mikkola with Brandon Montour, Oliver Ekman-Larsson with Dmitry Kulikov. Their back end in Florida, like these are all veterans. Any weakness here, like Oliver? Can you look at one pairing and go, you need to attack these guys a certain way, or you just go, no, they're pretty good, and you got to take what they give you if they let up?
Yeah, the third pairing of OEL and Dmitry Kulikov would be, if I'm Kris Knoblauch, you're trying to get Conor McDavid out against those guys, and because it's a third pairing, right? You're not going to have three top pairing sort of groups out there, and Kris Knoblauch is going to have to look for those situations like an icing, because you're not going to get last change. But if you have an icing, a situation where those guys ice the puck and are in their defensive zone, and you can get Connor McDavid, and maybe even load up Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl on the same line, because he's going to have to look for opportunities. This is not a game. This is a game that I really want to look at Paul Maurice and Kris Knoblauch and what kind of matchups he can try to force and hard match and those sort of things to get those 1 or 2 or 3 chances that they might take to try to win this game.
It's going to be a cat and mouse game, for lack of a better term. I didn't want to make the cat analogy or
they have the cats and they have the rats.
Yeah. They have cats, they've got rats. There's a turtle in there as well. But yes, we'll see what happens when it comes to the gamesmanship, let's call it, between the two head coaches. All right, we can go back down to South Florida. We can get to some more audio. I'll let Zach to come direct traffic and pick who we hear from next. Zach, who do you want to hear from?
Yeah, I don't think we've heard from the head coach of the Florida Panthers just yet. Here is the well-spoken Paul Maurice right now.
Yeah, Brian's playing tonight.
Obviously, we know his skill set and the speed and the energy and all that, but in a game like this, with so much on the line, how much does maybe his personality also help? Obviously, I know he's the guy that loosens up the rest of the guys a lot of the time.
Yeah, great energy that he brings to our room. But to give him credit, he also brings it when he wasn't in the lineup. You know, the last change was made after a couple of overtime losses where we shifted players in and out, and we rip off 6 in a row. And I'm not looking for a change at that point, but God, he had a great week in that time. Understood it. And you got to work at that. Like, you're just not a happy guy every day, or you're not playing in the NHL. Like, life's not like that. So he was really good in practice in the warm-ups, pumping tires, making sure everybody feels good. And I think that meant for me that when he comes into the lineup, he doesn't have to, if he had been sullen and disappointed and shown that, then he has to change his personality to come back in the lineup. Now is he running around the room high-fiving everybody? But his personality then didn't change when he was out. So when he comes into the room, he walks in, he's the exact same guy he was 5 days ago when he wasn't in the lineup, and everything's normal.
Back left.
Paul, I enjoy listening to you every time you're there, and I think you like us, but it's only
Not
game
all of it.
5.
That's all a charade.
It's only game 5, and it seems to be very long. How you deal with the duration, lack of a better word, of the final, and how do you make sure to keep your guys focused and making sure that it doesn't become too much of a grind?
Yeah. You got more energy now than you had 6 weeks ago. Right? We don't start here. We never went with this whole, like, I use the word journey because I got to talk a lot, and that's the word that comes into my head. But we didn't start this thing looking out, where we're going to be 2 months from now. It's an FU fight right from the start, right? You just get in the battle and go. And as you get along, everybody's bodies get a little bit tired, but mentally you get more juice. There's more energy around it. So I do. I come up here. So one of the challenges is dealing with the media over 8 weeks. And if you spend a lot of time thinking about it, it can be an energy drain. So I don't. I come up here, I tell you what I think. I don't try to game it too much. Yeah, I steer it certain days. I mean, there's a leadership component to this. But I found a really good way to kind of conserve the energy that you might burn trying to shape a lot of things, trying to game the system, trying to send messages, on all parts. It's just wasted energy. So I come up and say what I think, and I'll be out that door and not remember one word I say.
Left side, second row.
How would you assess Matthew Tkachuk's performance in the series so far?
Yeah, he's been good. I will throw this back to a comment earlier. You become desensitized possibly by McDavid and Draisaitl, and we've got stars too. But it's not going to be flashy every shift in his game. The inside play that he makes to Bennett on the goal is an incredible play, right? I don't expect that every time he touches the puck. So both teams have really good players. Both teams' power plays have been quiet, and that's why both teams' star players' numbers are what they are. But he's fairly close to leading our team in scoring, and we just need solid out of each guy. That's what we're looking for.
Left side.
There you go. Head coach Paul Maurice of the Florida Panthers. Zach Decum wrote, he's so good. And you were nodding to a lot of what he's. How have you found dealing with him?
He's the best. And I know, obviously, Oilers fans want their team to win a championship here and come back. But there's some solace. If there's some solace anyone should take, is that a lifer like Paul Maurice winning the Stanley Cup feels right at some point. Him winning a championship. He's coached 1,900 games in this league. He's always been a great talker. I got to cover a Jets Duck series a decade ago now at this point between Bruce Boudreau and Paul Maurice, and you just can't shut those guys up. They're terrific. And
in a good way.
Yeah, in a great way. And Paul Maurice has said that his son Jake, being a broadcaster with the Florida Everblades of the ECHL, has kind of also given him more of appreciation for the jobs that people like us do. And kind of when he would be angry if his son couldn't get an interview with a coach, or if someone was in a bad mood and was short with him. But he's always been a very eloquent talker. He's certainly, I remember a colleague of mine, maybe before last year, thought Paul Maurice might have been overrated because we like him so much, because that we would talk about him being great because he was great to us and a great talker. I think the last 2 years have shown, taking over a President's Trophy winning team that lost in the second round for Andrew Burnett, Paul Maurice has done everything it takes to make this team play playoff hockey. And to turn this team into the Panthers into a team that can win this time of year. I think there's a certain joy about Paul Maurice. I think from the entire kind of hockey world of being sort of proud of what he's done and happy for him being in this spot.
Back-to-back Cup finals for Paul Maurice at the helm of the Florida Panthers. All right, let's get to a few texts as we wind things down. There's Cal in the park. There is VR Montenegro and his lovely wife Ginger. There's Twitter Mary over there. Fergie's prostate left. He had to go. He wanted to stop by, say hi to the other nasties. Rip City Step, Trev the Savage, and am I missing anyone? I hope not. But a good turnout here at Hudsons, Bourbon Street, West Edmonton Mall. Your first taste of West Edmonton Mall?
My first trip ever to West Edmonton Mall.
Yeah, and we've only been
nice trivia on the way too. Yeah.
Yes, you haven't truly seen the mall. Maybe in the intermission, you'll have to walk and take a look at. I told you there's a replica of the Santa Maria.
I need to see that.
Yeah.
Yes,
and there's a bunch of other stuff. So you've only gone like 30 feet into the mall, basically.
Well, that's where we had to be.
Yeah. Here at Bourbon
We're doing
Street.
a job here. We're
doing good. Yeah, it's been good. You've been writing an article as
I'm
we've
writing
been doing
a Washington
the show.
Commanders article as we speak.
Yeah.
So that's
and you're
in between breaks.
You're getting chirps from other
we're
peers
getting
and colleagues.
chirps here and getting travel plans of what people have to do to fly back here if there is a game 6. So you're not just, if the Oilers win, you're not just dragging the Panthers back. You're dragging a lot of reporters and TV folks and whatever back to Alberta.
What was the comment that you got?
Now that I've been doing radio in the West Edmonton Mall, it makes me an Edmonton resident.
You are now an Edmontonian.
You know how much I love the city.
I've knighted you an Edmontonian.
You know how much I love the city.
I know.
got to spend a lot of time here outside the playoff bubble in 2020 and acquainted myself well with several establishments downtown during that time. That was amazingly 4 years ago, and we lived through a very weird time.
Yes, we did.
You know how much I love Edmonton. It's just hard to get here.
Edmonton loves you too, Steve. Yeah, it is tough to get here, especially from the eastern portion of the United States. But you're here, and appreciate you doing the show all show actually. And you're going to be writing post game, so you're going to be busy. But we're going to have a ton to talk about post game for sure. If you're available, you can hop on. Do your thing, Steve. It's all up to you. Let's get to some texts. Twitter Mary, who's on location, sent in a gif of a turtle. Turtle. Let's get to this one out of Calgary. Says not sure why everyone is in love with Maurice. He seems like in his press conferences, he's also coached for decades and never won anything. So he is massively overrated. That's from Calgary.
I enjoy dealing with Paul Maurice.
Yes.
I'm sorry that people think he is unpleasant to deal with. I personally, and I think many members of the media also love dealing with Paul Maurice.
Yeah, he gives you something, and we can
Kris
appreciate
Knoblauch, and this is not. I enjoy Kris Knoblauch.
Sure,
I've known Kris
he's fine.
Back to his Erie days. I've talked to Kris for a decade now. Back when he coached Connor McDavid and Dylan Strome and Conor Brown in Erie,
right.
And he's certainly more reserved, but he's also a good talker and a very smart and well-respected hockey man.
Yeah, very thoughtful as well. I'll add to that for sure. All right, Maple Jed says, good luck, Oil Country. And then we end it with this one from Spruce Grove Corey. Hey, Tommy, can I get a special happy birthday for my wife? Pulling for a big Oilers win. Spruce Grove Corey's wife, happy birthday. Hopefully the Oilers can make it a little bit better. The puck is going to drop soon. That's going to do it for the Oil Stream pregame show, brought to you by GCL Diesel, live on location here at Hudsons, West Edmonton Mall on Bourbon Street. Steve Whyno, great job today, buddy. Really appreciate it. You were excellent. Steve Whyno from the Associated Press. If you don't already follow him, do so. He is great. Big thank you to everybody who watched and listened. For Zach to come and Steve and Cass, I'm Tom Gazzola saying enjoy game number 5. We'll see you on the post-game show. Ciao, ciao.